What up, peeps, and welcome to a Finance Guy podcast, a show for all genders and species about bringing some humanity and a bit of fun to the world of finance and tech and leaving you with a little something that can help you on your way. All right, please enjoy. Thanks. All right, welcome everybody to another episode of the Finance Guys and Tech podcast and Finance Guys TV. Today we have a very special guest, our dear friend, Mr. Ryion Pun, joining us all the way from Singapore. So, sir, welcome to the podcast. Ryion is, it's our pleasure. Ryan's the Director of Finance for Data Center Ops in Asia Pacific. And I'm going to read just a short bio to give people a little background who might not know you. But Ryion has a team of 8 now, right? And you guys basically do all the operating financial plans for our clusters in Asia Pacific.
That's correct.
Short story long. And a little background on Ryion. He got his undergrad degree in info systems right here in Seattle from UW. And then you graduated cum laude. I saw that on LinkedIn. What does that mean? That's special, right?
Something special. Just I got a good GPA.
You did really good. He's a good student. He got his MBA from Cornell. And were you in Ithaca for that? Sunny Ithaca, New York?
Not the whole time, because I do the executive MBA.
Oh, okay, right. And that's kind of a little accelerated track.
Yes.
We got three people who have spent some time in Ithaca, so we got a commonality there.
So we can say go big red.
You could say
go
that,
big red.
Absolutely.
Right.
And then Ryion spent 12 years in various, I guess, business intelligence types of roles at Real Network, right here in Seattle. And that was it looks like a software company, like digital media.
Yeah, that's correct. All the digital media before YouTube, before Netflix.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So a lot of subscription business. It was completely different from what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
Right. It's all consumer products, right? Video, music, games.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, I noticed you're what we call a boomerang Amazon employee.
Yeah.
You came here in 2012, did another 2 years back at Real Networks, and then you joined again in 2015, right? And that was when you've been in AWS for now 5 years.
Yep.
And
right.
That brings us up to today. But I think I had one question I wanted to start with.
Yeah, sure.
How are you in such great shape? Because on this podcast, we're always looking for tips. We're looking for health and lifestyle tips. So I just am really curious, like, what's your regimen? Because you obviously keep fit.
Yeah. Well, I think health is very important, right? And for me, I go to gym, at least my intention is go to gym 3 to 4 times a week, right? Sometimes depending on meetings, but I definitely religiously, even in the morning, I will, do like 10 minutes of exercise before work, before I do everything else. So that's really helped me to keep it up, right? And that makes me feel good.
Yeah.
It makes you feel good. And if you do it every day, I would say even 30 minutes of anything, you will be in shape eventually.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big thing. I also actually recently in the past, I would say 4 months, I also pick up both yoga and meditation.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Yeah. So yoga, I do it once a week now. I think it's just like when you hit certain age, you kind of have to start doing something that is like nice to your body.
Yeah.
And not just like pushing hard.
Right on.
Yeah. And meditation is a big one that really help with the mind.
Interesting.
Yeah. In fact, I also want to start meditation. So what do you actually do when you meditate?
Yeah. So I learned a method is a Chinese method.
Uh-huh.
It's called Qigong. What does it mean? It's just like practicing your airflow in your body.
Okay.
So what it does is it's a pure meditation. You just sit still and then you focus on your breathing. And there is a method of how you breathe and what you focus on when you breathe. And then you just try not to wander around thinking other stuff, right? Of course, you will think other stuff, right? But the point is that the more you do it, like the better you get. It's just like any other practices.
Yeah. I think that's something we're gonna like. I'm gonna put a pin in because I want to talk about that during this podcast.
Sure.
But let's bring it back to the beginning. Like, where are you from? Like, what were you like as a kid growing up? What was your childhood?
Sure.
Give us that kind of.
Yep. So So I was born in Hong Kong. Right, and then I have my whole childhood until high school years. Then I moved to Seattle. As a kid, I came from a very loving family, so I'm very blessed about that. So I can do basically whatever I want. My parents, although growing up in Asia, they are quite open-minded, so allowed me to do a lot of things, and allowed me to make a lot of own decisions. A lot of things that I didn't help my parents when I was a kid, and I'm a single child.
I was gonna ask if you had siblings or yeah.
So I'm a single child, so I find a lot of ways to entertain myself. So when by probably like 4 or 5 to 6 years old, I learned to ride the bicycle on my own.
No kidding.
But I didn't let my parents know. So you know how you have that the training wheel?
Yeah, training wheels.
Right.
Yeah.
So every afternoon after school, I take a screwdriver and unhook the training wheel, and then I go out and I do it myself. And then before they came back from work, and I put it back on and pretend nothing happened.
Whoa, man.
Why? You know what I'm thinking of? That show Rugrats with the babies who like go on these adventures.
And some of that I think is that I don't want to fail too much in front of my parents when they actually teach me, right? How to ride a bicycle.
Yeah.
So I kind of like practice secretly
For the big like debut.
Yeah. So when my father like completely take out his hand, I say I can do it.
What do you say? What do you say the first day when he's like, "I'm gonna take you to the park to teach you to ride a bike," and you just like, done.
Yeah, try to be like, I'm the genius kid. No, but it's just like that kind of like I think that's a lot of like my personality. You can start from that age. If I think about it, I always kind of prep myself and do things that like secretly making sure that everything is good, so by the time it's a big day it will work well.
I can see that. I can see where you get it from now.
Yeah, so that's kind of how I grew up. A lot of this stuff, like little things. And as a single child, you do a lot of silly stuff, right?
A lot of imaginary friends.
Yeah, I compete with myself on ping pong with the wall. And I also do that. At home you have a lot of those cabinets, right? And I will pretend that I am a carpenter. So I will unhook, the door. You can just like screw it, unhook everything, put WD-40 on it, and I put it back on, and I was like, I did a good job. Right? But no one say anything because they don't know about it. So I do a lot of this stuff at home when I was a kid.
Were you like kind of just like a curious kid, or were you like into sports or books, or like were you?
Definitely not books when I was a kid, honestly, but a lot of more sport and pretty. I would say in the Asia standards, pretty naughty.
Oh, really? Yeah, you're a little bit of a rebel.
Yeah, definitely.
What's like the biggest trouble you ever got in?
I don't think you can share
Not
that.
That's fine. All right. We'll hold on that. But but one thing I can share is that we do those BB guns right in Asia, or at least in my area that I grew up, and my friend and I will always bring the BB gun and walk around. And we do get caught by the security guard, making sure that those are not real. I say, we were like 10. Yeah, I don't want to get in that.
Yeah. But nothing, huge trouble.
Right on.
But definitely not the good kids.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So then you ended up in Seattle for undergrad. What was that kind of like, what were you thinking with college and info systems? Did you know what you wanted to do, or?
Yeah, that's a great question, right? So one of the reasons that I decided to come to the state for school, and that was because it's my mother's vision that I have to study in the U.S. So, but she passed away when I was a kid. So, but then so my father and I will make sure that we fulfill that vision, because she already have all this stuff planned for me. So that's why I came over. But that was like a very easy transition, all right, honestly, because it's already planned in my head for many years. So as soon as we finished school, my father basically go to at that time we call like some of the agency in Asia that helps you do this transition. Go for the agency, and then they say, yep, here is the package, here you go, and then just go there. And that's how it works out. It turns out very easy. I didn't have much homesick. I fit in very well.
Yeah. And was info systems like something you were just interested in, or was that kind of...
No, it was a compromise. So I wanted to do computer science.
Mm-hmm.
My father at that time told me that business is better. And then I didn't really like agree with him, but I also don't have a reason to disagree with him.
Yeah.
Right. So and so we come to a compromise, and information system is kind of in between. You learn about the database, you can do some programming. So okay, that's like fine. I'm gonna do both.
Yeah.
So that's how it came about.
Got it. And you ended up kind of digging it, I guess. You did it for...
Yeah.
networks.
So it ends up that my when I went to Real, my first job was data entry into, but I'm managing the database of their music, the CDs.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when you transition like everything from physical to digital.
Yeah.
So my job was to download the CD into digital format, and then save everything into their database.
Really?
So that was my...
Like you were literally like burning CDs like on a hard drive?
Yeah.
Wow.
Man.
Yeah. So I was like basically locked in a library of CDs, right? And like that entry, and then like, oh well, it's a database job.
That's a pretty good job. I mean, I was doing that it was like the early 2000s, right?
Yes.
I remember like just taking my friend's CD collection, trying to like copy every single
Yes,
CD.
yes, exactly.
And,
So that, and then the cool things is that after you do that for a while, and they gave me a website, just one page, and they say, okay, you can upload the music that you think is good on this website, and then so you can kind of like manage. So kind of be a web editor at that point, like for one page. I was like, that's cool. I do that. Then my manager asked me, how did you know if your website's doing well or not? Well, I don't know, right? I was like, do you know how to track them? I was like, I can learn. That's how I learned Excel.
Oh,
Wow.
Yeah.
What were you thinking like as far as a career? Did you have a vision of where you wanted to go or what you wanted to do, or was this just sort of a good job and you said let's see what it looks like?
Yeah, so I did not expect I would be in finance, to put it that way, right? Because I went into marketing to start, but on the analytics side, and then did some BI. It was a really great opportunity at that point because we do a lot of analysis on the marketing side. That at that time the CFO in that company say, I need someone that's strong in number but also can speak the business language in order to help him to kind of like build out the FP&A group. And that's how I fell into the finance world. And then once I got in, I just kind of grow from there, and I never got out.
Was that why you kind of went to get your MBA? Was that sort of motivated from your new work at Real Networks?
No. So for MBA so after Real Networks, I joined Amazon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. One of the things when my first impression was the first time I joined Amazon was all the finance people are extremely smart, and then majority of them has MBA, which was like, so I immediately know that I was like, if I don't have an MBA, right, in the long run, is less competitive for myself, right? And so that was the motivation why I decided to take the.
So did you join? You didn't join infra to start with.
No,
right?
I was in retail marketing.
Oh, you were in retail marketing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
And you did a year there. Was Cornell MBA at the same time as that, or was it?
No, after.
Okay.
So it was. I did a year, and the reason I left is exactly because, right, and I knew it. Will be very hard for me to do both, right? School and work, especially at Amazon, back then. So I decided to kind of like when there was a great opportunity came up back at Real. So I just took it and then worked with the CFO at that time and say, hey, I need time to do my MBA, and we negotiate that, and they said, yeah. So that allows me time to do the MBA and do some fun job, go went back to the previous company.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so,
Okay.
so what was the motivation to end up back at Amazon? Like, what was special about
Yeah.
this job that you wanted?
Yeah. So by the time that I finished my MBA and COSM, so which is at that time, so I met COSM in 2012, and then
He's
when
the current director of our
VP
finance
of
org,
the finance org, yes.
VP of our finance org.
Yeah, and in 2015, there was a chance that we met up for lunch, and and then we just talk about things, and he still care about my career, which I was really impressed in a way because I left the company basically less than a year. I thought I burned the bridges actually,
Yeah.
right? So, but he actually cared about my career and asked me what I wanted to do, and I just told him that if I have a chance, I would like to get an international assignment because I never done anything outside of the U.S. Right, and one thing led to the other. I ended up in Singapore.
Wow. So he had that opening and suggested you look at it.
Yeah. So that was I'm like really grateful for the opportunity, and brought me closer to some of my family in Asia.
Yeah.
So everything works out perfectly.
Very nice.
Yeah.
What was it like working at Amazon versus Real? Was there any big differences in culture or anything?
Very different, right? One small, both company are public listing, but one smaller, one's huge, right? And the other things one is more like a declining business, and one's is a fast growing business. So the mindset as a finance person is is almost 180-degree different, right? In a smaller struggling company, you have to think a lot more on how cost cutting, right? Minimizing, right? And you find different way to restructure to make it work, right? In this company, is in a way it's like we would challenge the business. Why don't you spend fast enough? Which is a very different mindset for finance, and so it's something that you kind of have to change your brain to how do you help the business to spend, but also in a way that is making every penny worth it.
Like kind of invest wisely versus
Exactly.
like be a
Just like
budget
cut.
gatekeeper.
Yeah. So very different. But I think you actually it's a different skill set, but you learn it. You just kind of like learn as you go.
Yeah.
So Ryan, you have worked in different geographies. So what is the major difference in terms of work culture in these two geographies?
You mean in U.S. and in Asia?
Yeah.
If you put the box within Amazon, there's no difference. Which I am personally surprised because when I moved there, I am skeptical that in the Asian culture you can keep the bar as high as in the U.S. Right? Because some of the leadership principle in Asia is just not engraved into our culture, right? For example, backbone is a good one, right? Like in the Asian culture, you don't talk back to your parents, right? Is disrespectful, right? How do you train, the team in Asia to do that? But once I moved there and I start doing like a lot of interviewing, and now I'm a bar raiser, we didn't actually lower the bar. We just find people that fit into that mindset, and you will be surprised that actually a lot of people wanted to do that, but it was just the social norm that didn't allow them, right? But once you find those people, they are out there, and so I am personally surprised, and it was a good thing.
Yeah. Let me ask you then, as far as like hiring goes, what are some things that you look for in a candidate? Like what would make a really strong candidate, and what are things that you think are teachable, that they might not necessarily have at the time of the interview, but like what is it that you want to see?
The most important things is integrity, in my opinion, especially in finance, right? Because we have to tell a very factual pictures, and a lot of people in finance was taught not to paint the picture in a different way to tell a good story, right? But that, I mean, it's true, but a lot of the time, and I think that's the good things about this company is that factual, if it's bad, just say it. If it's good, just say it. And that integrity, I really try to tease that out during the kind of like during the interview, to make sure that they are not sugarcoating anything, right? And they can be self-critical about themselves and the decision that they make.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what are some things that, like, with your team that you coach them on? Like, what are maybe their soft skills, or maybe, you know, technical, but what are the things that you try to impart? I guess it's like a leadership philosophy. How do you lead your team?
Right. The most important thing, and I think again this, even though I hate to use culture as an excuse, but it is something that being the leader in Asia and try to work with the U.S. team, one of the mostly struggle for anyone in Asia in general is how do they speak up during a meeting with a lot of U.S.-based colleagues. They tend to be a lot more quiet in general, even though they have good idea, and like helping them to get rid of that barrier, and it's not because of their competence. It's just a invisible barrier for them that need to ask for permission to speak. And that's actually one of the things, a unique things in the Asian culture that we try to break.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. What can someone...
I completely, like, when I started, and when we were discussing, communication was actually a big thing for me in the first year also, because I come from the same culture. And I think for everyone who has grown up in Asia, this becomes a very big challenge to overcome. But as soon as you do it, then you become really good.
Right.
What is, like, someone watching who might think like they want to overcome that? Do you have any like tips that they could like think about?
Yeah, the easiest one that, and some of my team members do, is that they have a mental or like counter to basically force themselves. Every meeting, I have to speak up at least one or twice, right, in a meaningful manner, not just speak up for whatever reason.
Chime in with whatever you feel.
Right.
Like. Yeah.
Right. And the other, so that's one. The other way is be the icebreaker, and don't be the one just like sit there and waiting people to say hi to you, because being that icebreaker, you already gain confidence, right? Come in a meeting, say hello, right? Ask them about the day. That, or like the self-confidence build up, then for the rest of the hour, it's easier to speak up.
Oh, that's very good. That's very practical.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna ask you too. Like, you've become a director pretty quickly as far as like age goes. Like, what is
You don't know his age,
I just assume you look like you're 30. So I assume it can't be too far from there. But like,
actually 50, I just looked down.
Oh man, I'll take it. But what are some things that you think in your own career that sort of helped you achieve that? And, what I presume is pretty young, but no,
not. I mean, I wouldn't say anything particular. I think it's a mixture of the drive and also some luck. I think in everyone's world, I would, like, at least for myself, I would never contribute everything because of my hard work, and to achieve certain things. It's a combination, and I'm a true believer, it's a combination of the people that you met, right? The opportunity that you took up, right? And then the hard work that you combine, the hard work that you do, right, in order to get to where you are. There's a lot of people that works very, very hard and doesn't get the praises that they wanted to, but sometimes it's just bad luck, right? You see, it's the same thing. You see some homeless people on the street. It's not that they are bad or they are not working hard. Sometimes it's bad luck after bad luck.
Yeah.
So and I think we, as human beings, we need to understand that there is a factor that is beyond our control. that help us, right? Like I mentioned at the beginning, I came from a loving family, right? I met a lot of good people. I met a lot of a good leader along the way in my career that helped me to become where I am today.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it's combination. It's no one factor.
Yeah.
That really drive any success.
Well, it's a humble thing to say, but like I think just kind of your awareness, I would say like. Just the fact that you didn't give that answer is an example of probably one of the reasons when that luck came around, you could seize it, because I think it's a level of trust that people have too when you kind of defer credit to people who have helped you. But
and maybe I try to always take out the training wheels.
Yeah, I mean, like I could see these stories as a kid, like taking the cabinet off, just being satisfied, and then putting it back on, and then
no squeaky sound, no one know why.
Yeah. So go ahead.
I was really touched by like the part where Ryan mentioned that not burning bridges when he was coming back. So what is the role of mentorship in the growth of a career of any professional, be it a finance professional or any professional, like getting to know a mentor, having mentorship from somebody?
I think mentorship is a lot of people say, I need to find a mentor, right? And sometimes the mistake of that is that person could be a right match for your personality, but sometimes might not be. But because that person is already your mentor, you try to fit in to how they taught you or they teach you what to do. That would be bad, in my opinion. So the way that I never really force myself to find a mentor, but naturally I know people that I go to for different type of problems that I have, and then I will ask for advice. And you know which type, because in your career, what you really want to find is someone that can see your strength and your weakness. Someone that can tell you where your blind spots are, right, without being offended, right? And to create that is not it can't be in my opinion, it cannot be a professional relationship, but it's more like almost like a family relationship, right? So the person that I always go to, I treat him basically as like my brother, right? Because I know when I have trouble, I'll ask him a question, he will tell you exactly why or why not, right? And just tell it to your face. It will be just the same thing you tell your kids, right? Or your wife or husband, right? It's the same thing, that you have to have that level of trust in order to really help yourself grow and really find the flaw in you, and which is harder sometimes in a professional setting. In my opinion.
Yeah. So with this kind of like adoption of like yoga and meditation, I see like kind of a mindset thing going on. What's kind of like some of the biggest like ways that you've changed your mind over your career? What are some of the maybe ways that you act differently now than when you were younger?
And I think that's more like for everyone, with experience, you're calmer. Right? You are not as agitated when things doesn't go your way, right? And really learn to like listen more. But I think one thing with meditation and with my martial art, which I practice now, is Wing Chun. I don't know if you guys heard of it.
Tell us
but
about
that's
that.
the foundation of what the Bruce Lee martial arts, right? So the philosophy of Bruce Lee is very, and his martial arts is very straightforward. You use the least force to have the biggest impact. That's all, right? And that's one thing can drive everything in life and at work, right? So in the past, in professionally and personal life, right, when someone hits you, you hit back, right? Now, when someone hits you, for me, I was like, find ways to dodge. But dodge doesn't mean weak, right? But dodge is that how do I use my least force to fight back with a biggest impact, right? And that philosophy is like really changing. I think it's also just age maybe.
Yeah.
But that's the philosophy as you learn, right? And you encounter different things, and it feels like, oh, it's so much easier. I don't have to be angry about it, right? I don't have to be makes me like and ruin your day, and I can still have a smile, go for a workout, right? And then come back and do your job.
You sort of step away from, like, you remove yourself from, like, the issue and kind of assess it very practically.
Yeah. And like for a while, I read a lot of like all the books that like Bruce Lee, and it's just so simple and nothing hard about that.
Yeah.
And when I practice the martial arts, it's the same. I can tell you, I would be, if you ask my coach, probably I would be the worst martial artist ever, right? But that also humble myself. It's like, I'm very good at work that tells people what to do in Excel, right, and all this stuff. When it comes to martial arts, then my coach was like, think 3 steps ahead. I was like, I can't even finish my first step, so let's figure that one out.
Yeah.
But the point is still, right, every time it's like, because your reaction is to go hard.
Yeah.
And then he's like, no, go soft. I was like, okay. And that actually bring it to work and in life, it's like, that's so easy.
It trains you not to react, is that basically?
Yes.
Wow.
And you train your physical muscle and your mental muscle.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Do you have a colored belt? Green belt?
No, they don't have belts. Yeah, in the majority of the Chinese martial arts, they don't have belts. They just, it's really about practice.
The process.
Yeah, and the process. Yeah.
So did something...
But if ever there is a belt, I think I'm a white.
Well, I'm a blank belt, so I'm not gonna mess with you. We had Lincoln on the podcast, who's like doing boxing now and like doing the Bruce Lee study. I feel like we need to sit
I know.
I think it's like a thinkable thing.
Maybe people in Asia, Singapore are doing this a lot.
I think there's something. This is becoming a lifestyle podcast. I think more. So then, tell us a little bit. Like, let's do some of we have some like kind of personal questions too, like outside of the work, just to get to some other stuff.
Sure.
What is like some things you consume like outside of work, whether it's books or documentaries? Like, what kind of content do you like to engage
In terms of reading?
Yeah, well, whatever it is you prefer.
Yeah. So reading wise is actually mostly economist, and then the Molecule. Have you heard of the? It's a lifestyle magazine, basically. Not about news, but mostly about what the interesting things around the world. Yeah, so that's really the only 2 things that I really read. I treat any news I mean, I still read all the news online, but I try to treat it as, I don't know if it's real or fake type of a deal.
Yeah.
It's Economist is kind of the big one that I really think, okay, those are the edited, like the fact check, those type of news, trustable source. Yeah. But like in terms of reading, that's mostly. I try to pick up a book once in a while, but only if it's something that really interests me in the topic. Right now, because of all the meditations and things that I kind of more interested into how the brain works and like how does the conscious work types of things. So I'm reading some of the like hard questions, like what is consciousness?
Oh wow!
Like type of.
Is there any book like you'd recommend for someone who's just like a beginner in that kind of?
I am the beginner, so I don't know.
What's been one that's stuck out for you?
I'm reading this one. I'll show you. It's quite. What's the name of this?
Julian Jaynes, The Origin of Consciousness in the Breakdown of the Bicameral Mind. That's a beginner.
Oh my god!
What's kind of the big?
I don't even know what is bicameral.
I don't know. What's the kind of takeaway from that? Like,
so I halfway through that, but basically the book makes you think a lot because the author just posts a lot of questions and posts a lot of scenario. Right? Is consciousness A, or it's not? Is consciousness B or it's not? And then so you keep building up this question, and then at the end of the day, when you put down the book, and it's like, what am I? Is consciousness can be programmed or not? Is that from the past? Is that from the history? Or is that from the gene?
Wow.
Right? It's so they have a lot of theory and kind of help you think. And I think even now the world, they don't actually have a conclusion, but it's a continuous study.
Yeah.
And that's the things that I'm interested in. It's not that something that's already have a conclusion is not as fun.
Yeah.
But it's something that doesn't have a conclusion, then it makes you think, because in life I have to believe there's a lot of stuff that we haven't discovered, and these are the things that is sometimes it's just like keep you thinking.
Yeah.
Keep you up at night. It's like sometimes I don't know what does it even mean.
That's the big question.
Yeah.
There is one, right?
Yeah.
Like, what is consciousness? What is meaning?
Right.
I don't know. Do you have maybe it's a good time to ask, do you have sort of a general philosophy on life? I don't want to jump to the biggest question right away cold, but how do you approach kind of this whole thing, career, long term? What do you think is important?
What's important?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a tough question, right? But I think life has to be simple, in my opinion. So I strive to be minimalist, right? And the simpler it is, the less cluster, the clutter in your head, right? And you can think clearly, right? And then with that, then now you focus on family, right? Focus on the love, as that is your backbone, basically. And everything else, I think, is just fall in place, right? And even with work, right? With working out, with everything else, is that as long as you follow your heart and doing the right thing, give some time to yourself. A lot of people, because we are also busy, and with technology, you make it even busier, right? So, and that's the reason I say I only have a couple magazines that I read, because I just don't want to have other unnecessary information. I just need enough information to get to have topic to talk about, right? And know what's going on in the world, right? But everything else, I would say, in the world that's going so fast, if you can find a space in yourself that can truly slow down, then everything else you'll find that is a lot clearer.
Yeah, I think that's why Ryan's, if you look at his LinkedIn profile, it calls out bringing order to chaos. So I think that's what he's talking about.
Yeah. And it's quite simple, as they're doing the same thing in life, at work, and everything. And the martial arts is the same thing. Like, what's the easiest way, right? Someone you can say it's lazy, or you can say it's like whatever, but it's like the easiest way to get the biggest impact, right? The simplest life to get the biggest bang for the buck, right? In finance, it's the same. Spending the least money to get the biggest impact is the same thing.
It all ties together. What about on a less deep level? What do you like as movies or shows or anything that kind of for entertainment that you kind of get into?
It's funny, like you say, when you ask, it's like my all the favorite things is quite simple. I like cartoons, I like animations, I like Disney movies. Right?
What's your favorite Disney movie?
All of them, basically.
Like the Pixar or the cartoon stuff?
I watch every single one of them. Honestly, I can't pick one that is favorite. But I'm to a point sometimes it's silly, right? And my wife would give me a look. But Saturday morning, right? I would be coming down and then turn on the TV and then look for a cartoon to watch.
Oh man! It's like a big bowl of Fruit Loops or something.
My wife was like, and I was like, yeah, because that's what I want. But again, back to the simplicity.
Yeah.
Right. There's a lot of dark movie, complex movie, right? Things that get you thinking. But it's like, if I'm not working, if I'm in my downtime, I just want simple stuff, something that make me laugh, something that keep me happy. Yeah. So it's very simple.
Let me ask you, do you know the songs from the Disney movies?
Every single one of them, but I always sing Hakuna Matata.
The Lion King soundtrack, the Aladdin soundtrack, I at one point had them down by heart.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's and they just came out with a new Lion King, right? In the last
I watched it twice.
Oh my word. That's what about, we always ask people too, what about if you could have lunch with 3 historical figures or anybody, who would you want to sit down with and chat with?
I actually only have 2. Bruce Lee is one, and then the recent tragedy, Kobe Bryan. And the reason I think I attracted to people that I like to talk to is people that really put their 100 and 110% to perfect something. and I found that fascinating. Right, I would consider myself not at their level, right? Because otherwise, I should have even like one thing that I do very, very, very well, right? But that just fascinating for me. That how can you like for your entire life focus on one thing, like one team, right? And just do very well at it, so dedicated at it, and I find it like it's very heartwarming for me that someone like that loyalty and that persistence.
Yeah.
Right? And even for myself, in a way, I have that loyalty in me. Right? It's like I stayed. If you look at my career, actually, it's only 2 companies, but I just feel like it's my personal like if I do well and continue to do well, then that is something that you continue to build on. It doesn't has to be, jump to different things to do different things and just keep my life simple.
Yeah.
Do well in those things.
I think Ryan has stayed in this role since you joined. You have stayed in the same role, right?
Yeah. Right.
I'm hearing like a lot of like a focus on the process, right?
Yeah.
Focus on the inputs and
do things just for the sake of doing. Don't have a mentor for the sake of having a mentor. Don't change jobs just for the sake.
Right. Because if you have a really clear mind, then you really know who you are. Then you know what you want to do. So you don't want other external factor to influence you.
Yeah.
You want that, okay, I know what I want and how do I find that things to help you and to grow you.
Yeah. I think one of the things we usually like kind of end on is like what kind of advice would you give to someone who's maybe like starting out, whether in high school or college, starting out a career, just what would you tell them based
Have
on
fun. That's what I did.
Yeah.
Right?
Take off the training wheels.
Take off the training wheels, have fun, right? Because if you ask me, would I do anything differently in life? I would say nothing. Because it's every single things that you learn in life and every single experience to get to where you are today. Right? And I believe in the movie sliding door, like something door, right? That if one thing changed, your whole life would change, right? So there's nothing really to worry about. Have fun, be your age, right? With whatever age you're in, just enjoy it. I do a lot of silly things when I was a kid, right? As I growing up, I do good things, bad things, right? But you will end up the right thing, the right way, as long as you have the good foundation. But that's, I think, one of the luck in my, like early on that I mentioned, is that one of the lucky things that I had, that I grew up in a loving family and I had a good foundation. So that foundation, this will help you when you go, you will not really go off track too much, because you have the, when you're really wrong, it's like, maybe it's time to come back to the right track.
Some guide rails.
Yeah. So I think that's the key thing. So, and if you're parents for young kids, and I think that is the most important thing, is like build that foundation. It's not to protect them, right? Because I wasn't really protected when I was a kid, but I think what is like is the guardrail and that foundation, then even at the person growing up, do whatever they want. Yeah. So there's, for me, like when people come to me, I have no advice. Just be yourself and have fun, right? Enjoy life and have a long-term goal, like you know what you want to be at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Just do one thing that you're really good at.
I love it. Is there anything we didn't cover? Anything you want to add that we didn't?
No, I think you guys ask a lot of tough questions.
Let's maybe put a feather in our cap for round one here. And Ryan, get us going.
Oh,
absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yo, what up, everybody? Thanks for tuning into the podcast. Don't forget to subscribe. Feel free to leave a rating, a review, what have you. But most of all, go have a fantastical day. Okay? We'll see you soon. Goodbye.